intro, because y'all only care about... First, set the BPM to 156. Find a kick that sounds something like this. Little snare like... And out of those, make a beat like... But then, count out 8 beats and delete everything except the first kick. Cause fake outs lead to makeouts. Or they're trendy right now, I guess. After those first 8 beats, hats on the 8th. But give it a little brup at the end. While the fake out is going on, add some claps so it doesn't confuse everyone. Crash on every first beat. That also reverses into itself sometimes. Gotta keep it interesting. We ain't stomp, clap, Imagine Dragons out here.
Oh, the misery! Every single person is my enemy!
Find a wonky loop to throw in the background for some weird and percussive vibes. Noisy sine 808 to put on top of the kick. But only sometimes. And a drum break to turn the beat around. Now, this is just one way to turn a beat around and keep it interesting. There are some other ways like, hey, can I have one Jersey Club beat? There are some other ways like, please, just one Jersey Club beat. There are some other ways like, only one. Fine, one Jersey Club beat. Sick. And altogether, that sounds like... Before I tell you what layers work for this song, let me show you the most important one. But this layer isn't even used in the song. How can that be? See, when I was starting out as a producer, one of my favorite types of videos to watch was piano covers of EDM songs. Because as a piano player, learning about electronic music production, to me, it was super cool to hear meticulously crafted songs simplified in a way that I understand. It also had this extra effect of highlighting the song while still retaining its emotions and vibes when played on the piano. Another time too is when I went to see one of my favorite bands, Paramore, and they opened up with an acoustic version of Misery Business. When I heard the whole crowd singing along to it with the same energy as the full band version, it clicked in my head that it's not the number of like overlook organic layers and mixing hacks that you can stuff into your song, but more the overall feel and vibe that you can convey even in its simplest form. Having said that, did you guess it yet? What the most important layer is? That's right. It's a track with just a saw wave or init patch or piano, and you can do this with or without drums. But if you spend all your time here, you're essentially writing the whole drop on one sound. This way you can tell if it works or not without getting lost in all the different layers. My whole concept of this drop was to have this initial impact note and then have a melody play right after it. And then go into this B section of stabby chords that I would eventually turn into some heavier drop sounds. But I'm writing all of the chords, all of the melodies on one track. Now, of course, this isn't going to be the final version, but you can have the idea written out as much as you can, just to see if it works within the context of the song. The actual final one ended up looking more like this. So this is me putting all of the different notes onto different sounds and then bringing it back onto the simple sound, and this is what it sounds like. But the whole goal is you want the main idea to be so strong that when you expand it into a full composition, you're not wasting time fiddling with mixing hacks because it doesn't sound quite right. Because, spoiler alert, it's not your mix that's the problem, it's your song's idea and arrangement. If we focus just on this chord stack, notice is how I go lower with the chords, I pick mostly the same notes. My intervals here stick to octaves or fifths because a lot of the mud that other videos will tell you to just EQ out are a result of you doing chord stacks like this down in the lower end, and that just adds to mud. Like, listen to that. If I remove that, maybe do like a fifth and an octave. Listen to how much more powerful that one stack is. Then as you get higher, you can add richness with the thirds or even sevenths, heck, even ninths if you want to go super music theory. But listen to how nice that chord stack is. And we've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 notes. Normally that's all mud, but if you just focus on having your lower notes spread out and your higher notes clustered together, you get a nice, rich, full chord. And because you spent all your time making good chord stacks, look at this. That's right. In the final drop, there is only one supersaw layer. Future bass YouTubers in shambles right now. Another thing you might notice is I'm not copying the whole chord stack over either. I'm only copying the first few notes because with that big chord stack, we're going to assign different notes to different sounds. But we'll get to that in a second. That's right. If you want even the slightest chance for the same people on Reddit or X, the everything app, to criticize your music and say all your stuff sounds the same, you better get that song onto Spotify or Apple Music or Tidal or TikTok, which is right where this video sponsor comes in. That's right! DistroKid is a service that you can use to put your music onto online stores and streaming services. This means all of the streaming platforms I mentioned earlier and more. And that's right, you heard me, TikTok. The amount of artists blowing up off TikTok is kind of crazy, and if you can get your music onto that catalog, it gives you a better chance of kickstarting your career. The best part though is, unlike other distribution platforms, DistroKid collects earnings and payments, and after banking fees and taxes, sends 100% of these earnings to you, the artist. And you don't even have to pay per upload. You only pay once per year. It's only $23. So if that sounds good to you, sign up right now and use my VIP link, because with that, you'll get even more of a discount. Every time you do that, it helps my channel out. Thank you to DistroKid for sponsoring this video. Now, let's look at what layers you need to make a modern future bass song. Only one supersaw layer. That's not all. We want a dynamic chord layer as well, so duplicate that onto a different track and switch it to a square wave. Take off any unison and make the amp envelope look like this so that it has a nice punch right at the beginning. Next, use the Ableton Phaser Flanger plugin and dial in these settings. Did you know, if you click this little triangle here, you can actually add an envelope follower to the phaser, which means the phaser follows the sound as the sound plays, and that just lessens the intensity of the effect a little bit. Before and after. All together with the drums. From the simple sound, copy over the lead melody onto these layers. Did you know that if you downsample, distort, and reverb and saturate OTT, aka Wombo Combo, onto a detuned saw wave, you can make the iconic screamy lead. Layer that in with a square wave. And a more plucky layer playing the harmony. All of them with some form of distortion, just to give it a bit of extra beef. Now if your lead isn't quite leading enough, add in a noise layer as well. Just duplicate it and switch it to the noise oscillator. Switch it over to pitch track and there you go. And all together with the chords and drums. Hang on. This is sounding a little thin. Obviously needs some mid-side linear phase EQ to make sure that your kicks and bass aren't out of phase, and to use span to clip to 0, and all tracks are hitting that 0 point cross threshold with spectral compression. I'm kidding, it's actually just... Once again, because we wrote all of the simple sounds, we can copy over the bottom notes to a noisy sine wave like fully juiced up with OTT and disperser. Disperser free rack down below. And good old faithful, aka poop saw. It's just a singular saw wave with a low pass. Sometimes distortion, sometimes OTT, but it depends on the song. All of the basses tied together with a sub bass, of course, playing the most bottom note of your stack, usually in the 0 octave. Oh, what's that you hear? That's right, it's a B section, which is a nice contrast to this melodic hook. Once again, to save time from endlessly scrolling through samples, getting lost in a sound design rabbit hole, I strategically chose layers using the notes that I wrote in with the simple sound. This way, I ended up with, gasp, Virtual Riot bass one-shots? But aren't you supposed to make every sound yourself? I mean, sure, if you want to impress like the other 3 producers on Reddit. I chose to save time and put my ideas down fast, and these samples just happened to fit exactly what I was looking for. If you want to make sounds yourself, go ahead. That's cool, but don't lose sight of the goal of making a good song. So here's what I used. First, this metallic sample that I pitched up 5 semitones to match the note that I was trying to hit. Then chopped it up to fit the rhythm, and these are the effects I used. The second sample sounded like this. Chopped it up again, then tuned it to the high note of the stack. These are the effects I use. I wanted to use this scream lead as one of the layers, but it ended up not being as choppy as I wanted, so I just resampled it and basically chopped it up myself. And this note layer really pushes the melodic tone of this section, gives the listener some kind of melody to hear amidst all of the aggressive bass samples. And of course, Gigasub layered right in underneath as well. And because I don't want this to sound like a completely different song, I snuck over the original chord stack to the supersaw and brought over the noise sine and the poop saw, which are just anchored to the relative minor for that melodic heavy vibe. If you don't know what I just said, watch this video for more info on that. And all together, now, with all of the layers, all of the arrangements sorted out, now's the perfect time to add in some final details. A lot of this will come together through automation and movement. A lot of the automation happens on the group where all of the main sounds are. This includes kilohertz tape stop for that pitch bend that you hear right at the beginning. For me, this is the easiest way to do it because it's an on-off switch for automation. You can also use Ableton's shifter, or you can resample the whole section and add a clip envelope on there as well. But this is the easiest way for me, literal on-off for that effect. I've got this audio effect rack here. That's a shifter and a redux for some glitches. That sounds like... Having little elements like this helps add just a little bit of interest, especially if you're switching to a bassier section. So glitches are really good at that. It's a lot of little details that help add to it. The last other detail that I like too is using a backspin sample layered in with a lot of the glitches. Just adds little ear candy and interest and makes the song have a lot more energy. I think the overall thing to take away from this is this all came about from a simple sound, and I basically expanded upon all of it. And the only reason this drop is so strong is because I spent all of my time writing the drop like this. But what makes these drops really work is the context that it's put in. And that means not just immediately going over to Ableton and trying all of these out right away, but seeing if you can spot how I apply these techniques in other songs that I write, especially in other videos that I put up where I'm just making music. Because sometimes you'll head over to Ableton or your DAW and you'll completely forget everything I've talked about, versus trying to spot it in a proper production setting and not just breaking it down in a YouTube video. However, if you've made it this far, you're a legend. If there's any other artists you want me to break down, feel free to comment them below. These videos do take a lot longer for me to make, so it's the only way I can keep making videos like this is if you keep watching them, if you smash that subscribe button and ding the bell, all of that stuff. Also, if you want to help out even more, if you want to see me make this song from start to finish, you can go support me over on Patreon. That's all over there. Now, all together, this song sounds like...